everybody. Welcome to the Mount Daniel Parent Coffee for the month of March. I'm Jen Fessenden. I'm the math coordinator here. Tim and Lindsay weren't able to join us today, but we have our fabulous crew of math and reading specialists to take you through the mathematics and literacy programming here at Mount Daniel. So I'm going to kick it off to Larkin, let her introduce herself, and kick us off.
I'm Larkin Epstein. I'm the math specialist here and at Oak Street. And you guys want to introduce yourself now or you'll wait? Okay. Our math interventionist, she wasn't able to be here today. She's a little under the weather, but that is Jillian Lowe. So we are going to just talk a little bit about our learning, our plannings, our new standards and goals, how we monitor progress, what supports we have here, and just resources and questions, and then we'll switch over to literacy. So just to kind of give you guys like an overview of what math looks like here at Mount Daniel, we utilize a math workshop, and so a lot of times when you're in math classrooms here, you'll see like students working in small groups or at centers. A couple students might be with the teacher working on a skill, some might be with our paraprofessionals doing some practice, or they might be working independently on games. So it's very hands-on, super personalized to what each student needs. We really value differentiation, and so some students might still be working on proficiency towards that standard, and some might be ready for a little bit of a push. Some might need some reteaching of skills learned prior. Since we're an IB school, we make sure that a lot of our instruction is based in inquiry and exploration, and one thing we're really focusing more on, we'll talk a little bit more about our standards, is communicating in math. So having students explain and justify, reason how they got their answer, and so that has been a fun journey for us, especially with our little friends. We are super fortunate here at Mount Daniel. We are both able to meet with the teachers every single week, so I meet with the whole teams weekly, and that also includes our special ed teachers and our ESOL teachers at times, so that we can really plan for instruction for the week or weeks coming up. So we really just talk about like, what are our lessons going to look like? How are we meeting the needs of everybody? If they've got it, what are we doing now? If they still are working on that concept, what do we need to do to meet those needs? And it's just really based in like what our data is showing us from our assessments, how are we collaborating, how can we provide feedback to students. So that has been great.
And that happens every single week. Every single week, Larkin and or I meet with all of the grade level teams and really like embed ourselves in this PLC, professional learning community process, to make sure that we're supporting all students. Oh, and this year in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have new mathematics standards. So there's not a huge change in the content of the standards. The biggest change comes in what are called the process goals. So in addition to students learning the skills of mathematics, adding, subtracting, place value, all those concepts, the process goals have been embedded into the language of our standards. So they used to be separate, and what we found, or what they found across the state, is that the teachers would sometimes teach the standards and not always remember to weave in those process goals, which is honestly the most important part of mathematics, because if you can add but you're not able to communicate or apply that knowledge to other concepts, you're not fully embodying the whole description of a mathematician. So the new math standards include, I think, let me go to the next slide. The mathematics standards include the process goals now. So it includes, our standard will say like, add and subtract within 10 and communicate orally and in writing your reasoning. So the words communication are embedded, reasoning, problem solving, in writing and orally. So we've always done that, and there's even more of an emphasis on that now, which is really helpful, because as our students move throughout the IB program and they progress through the PYP and into the middle years program, the MYP at the middle school, the grading shifts a little bit, and they grade more heavily on the communication piece and some other areas of the MYP rubric. And so this shift in our elementary standards will really support that transition nicely. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that you probably saw my email asking for parent representatives. We are in the process of evaluating mathematics curriculum resources to use starting next school year. Our committees have met. We'll be putting one forward starting next week. We've made our final decision. We had some really good options. I was on the statewide committee, so I was able to really dig into them deeply at the state level and then kind of bring the top choices here for the committee to dig into and try out lessons with students and go through that whole process. So we've selected one. The committee has selected one, and we'll be sending that out in morning announcements on Monday, and the resources will be available to you to take a look at central office and digitally. We'll share digital login information. Oh, I want to say Justify. Sorry, I could talk about this all day. The Justify piece I didn't mention, but that goes with the communication. Students really need to be able to justify and explain their reasoning and their answer choice. So when we went to school, math was about getting the right answer. Like, can you get the right answer? Great, let's move on. And now it's more about the journey to get the right answer. Do you conceptually have the understanding to be able to process that and apply it to different mathematical situations and justify your answer, communicate your answer, and things like that?
So we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview of each of the grade levels, kind of the big concepts that we focus on. So in kindergarten, we're really working on identifying, composing, decomposing, comparing numbers up to 100, and with a variety of different representations. So a lot of those counting skills, but also representing them with using different models. They also start to solve single-step addition problems without the actual operation of adding and subtracting within 10, and just exploring those part-whole relationships between 5 and 10. So 2 and 3 make 5, 7 and 3 make 10, things like that. Identifying shapes, there are different attributes. There's a lot of vocabulary around that. Students have to identify like the vertices and the sides and compare different shapes, as well as calendar and time. That's something that students are pretty much doing every single day. Another thing is students are working with object and picture graphs, but again, asking questions, being able to analyze the data and draw conclusions from it. And then, which sounds crazy, they're also doing algebra in kindergarten. It really starts that young, but really just through those like patterns, right? Just simple repeating patterns, extending patterns, and so yeah. I switched you. I stole yours. Do you want me to do first grade?
Sure.
Okay. She was supposed to do kindergarten, but I got excited. First grade, continuing on, we're going up to 120 now. Now when we're doing addition, subtraction, we're actually adding in those symbols of adding and subtracting and going up to 20. So just fluency problems and like we call them naked problems, where it's just like 7 plus 8, but also contextual word problems as well. Continuing to work with shapes, and we're also, for time, we're looking at time to the half hour and the full hour. And again, objects and picture graphs, again, analyzing that data, being able to communicate your results and communicate what the graph is telling us. And then now we're going into growing patterns, and we're looking at patterns in first grade. And I won't steal this from you. You can do second grade.
No, you're welcome to. So second grade continues to build. We know mathematics skills build upon each other. Second grade gets into the money more. So in second grade, they add and subtract, identify coins, like coins and unlike coins, which is first grade is only working with like coins and very minimal work with coins. Second grade gets into adding and subtracting mixed coins. They focus heavily on addition and subtraction within 20 with all different types of word problems. So we probably did a lot of word problems that were like, Larkin has 5 apples, Jen has 17 apples. How many? Oh, that's beyond 20, but Larkin has 5 apples, Jen has 12 apples. How many apples do they have together? Instead of Larkin has 20 apples, some are green, some are red. how many might she have of each color? So really making sure we're exposing students to different types of word problems and problem solving opportunities, getting into the customary units of length, weight, and liquid volume in second grade, and continuing to build on that data cycle, getting into graphing and bar graphs in second grade, pictographs, and then extending the algebra more. And so you'll see that these skills just really build upon each other. The data literacy piece is really embedded in our new standards. It's a main part of our new standards, and every single grade level, K through high school, starts with a really hefty data cycle unit for the beginning of the year, and we weave it throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, and important to note too, you'll see like addition and subtraction kind of building throughout. And one thing it's important that we're doing is we're not just immediately saying, memorize this fact 7 plus 5, teaching them different strategies so eventually they become fluent in those facts. So by the time at the end of second grade, you're starting to see students doing, traditional 2-digit plus 2-digit, but we're teaching them all sorts of strategies so they really understand it conceptually and not just memorizing like, oh, and then I put this number up here. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean for place value? Because that's kind of how we were all taught, but no one really explained to us why we do those steps. So we really, really focus heavily on all those strategies before introducing kind of that procedure. So we monitor progress in a ton of different ways. So one of the just kind of formal ways that we're doing it, in kindergarten, students take the VKRP in the fall and in the spring. This is kind of a one-on-one interview-based type of assessment. Students are working with manipulatives, they're asking questions.
That's a statewide assessment.
Statewide. And then STAR, you guys have probably seen these reports, they come home 3 times a year in first and second for math. And we use these data points along with other data points to make a variety of decisions. What do students need to work on? Do students need to receive a little bit of extra intervention in this area? We also, teachers in kindergarten and first grade, students take quarterly assessments at the end of every quarter on all the skills. And some of those are the teacher meeting with the student one-on-one and, count by 5s to 100 for me. And some of it is more on like just answering a question. And in second grades, those assessments are taken at the end of every unit. So we're just constantly seeing how the students are doing. How do we need to change our instruction to best meet their needs? Do we need to go back and reteach something to the whole class or just to a couple of students? So we just use a variety, and also just like those quick checks, like daily type of things where teachers can quickly see, oh, how's Jen doing on this concept and how does that inform my instruction? And lastly, support. So when you're thinking about our classroom, there's kind of all students are receiving tier 1 instruction. That's like the lesson that all students are receiving. Those kind of rotations, all students are receiving that. That's where most kids fit, right? And so at times, sometimes students need a little bit more. We refer to that as tier 2. So that would be our core instruction and a little bit more. So that's often the teachers pulling them an extra time to kind of review some of those concepts they need a little bit of extra support on. And then tier 3 is very, very small percent. It's like 1 to 5% of our students. It's a small group of students. That's when they're working with the specialists on maybe some skills from the year prior, just filling some gaps. And that would be we call it core, more, and more. So they're not missing their main classroom instruction. They're still meeting with their teacher probably additionally, and then they're also meeting with a specialist or an interventionist. So we'll skip this for now because it's short. You want to talk about resources for home?
Sure. So we have some resources. We'll make sure this goes out in Danny's corner, so you have the links also to this. But we listed some resources there for you that you could do at home with your students. The first one is a list of resources that the Virginia Department of Education has put together. We have our FCCPS mathematics website listed, so you can see all of the information, what programs we use, what the progressions are moving from kindergarten all the way up through high school. There's a really good article from Joe Bowler from Stanford University called Fluency Without Fear, and it gives some resources to use for building fluency with students and automaticity without like timed memorizing facts that research has shown stresses kids out. As a really good article. And then we paired it with some math flips, which are flashcards that you can use with your students that have a visual model to go along with it. So it's not just memorization, it's building that automaticity through being able to recognize models. And then there are some really good math progression videos on that website from a mathematician named Graham Fletcher. And it's, if you're wondering how that addition and subtraction builds upon each other throughout the grade levels, or how the multiplication division will build upon itself as they go into Oak Street, they're really good videos he sketches it out on paper, and he just does the whole progression, and it's really powerful. We've shared it with all of our teachers. I share it with any parent who asks what it looks like, what we're doing in each grade level. And then lastly, all of your students have access to Dreambox at home. It's a program that we use in school. Students have access at home, and the teachers have sent home login letters. If it didn't make its way home, or if you need a new one, please just email your student's teacher and they can print one for you.
Any questions? Good. I know that's a lot of information.
And you can email us anytime
Yes.
too. On our math website, our contact information is there. And we love talking about math, and we love talking about student learning. So really, if you want to email us, we're happy to meet with you.
All right. Thank you.